Marcus came from a more troubled home environment. With his parents frequently away on ministry obligations, Marcus often felt neglected and resentful. He fell into the wrong crowd at school and began drinking, stealing, and engaging in other delinquent behaviors. Marcus took notice of Jason's sheltered life and grew envious of the stable, loving home Jason had. He started making attempts to pull Jason into his wayward lifestyle. Jason was always a bright and inquisitive young boy. He was 15 years old and at SS2 at that time. From an early age, he showed an impressive aptitude ability, devouring books on engineering and architecture. His dream was to one day become a renowned architect, just like his father. Jason loved the creativity and precision that went into designing structures that could stand the test of time. In addition to this inspiration at home, Jason was also an active member of the youth ministry at his church. He loved the sense of community and positive values everyone upheld. Jason was soon given a leadership role at the media department of the teens church, helping to organize volunteer efforts and teens activities. The church youth pastor recognized Jason's potential early on.
"This young man is going places,"
he would say.
"With his disciplined mind, caring spirit, and drive to succeed, the world is truly his oyster."
The school principal said almost the same thing about him. There is no competition the school is going that the principal will not insist that Jason be included because of his extraordinary intelligence. Jason did not allow any of this to get into his head. He kept working hard and remained determined than ever to live with integrity. With his father's mentorship and positive influences at church, Jason grew up with a clear moral compass. He was a shining example of how involved parents and caring communities could mold kids into aspiring, principled adults. The boy who ruined everything. However, one of the pastor's sons at church, Marcus, came from a more troubled home environment. With his parents frequently away on ministry obligations, Marcus often felt neglected and resentful. He fell into the wrong crowd at school and began drinking, stealing, and engaging in other delinquent behaviors. Marcus took notice of Jason's sheltered life and grew envious of the stable, loving home Jason had. He started making attempts to pull Jason into his wayward lifestyle. One day, both of them met at the school cafeteria and had a discussion. "You, Jason, hold up, man," Marcus called out. "Hey, Marcus, what's up?" Jason said apprehensively. "Are you free this weekend? My parents will be traveling to Luxembourg this weekend for a ministerial assignment, and I'll be hosting some guys and babes at my place this Friday night. I want you to be there," Caleb told Jason. "A party? I don't know, man. That doesn't really sound like my thing," Jason replied. "Come on, bro, stop being lame. Let me guess, you're going to go to church again this weekend?" "Yeah, so what if I am? There's nothing wrong with that," Jason replied defensively. Caleb put his arm around Jason and said, "You are way too tense, my brother. You need to learn how to really let loose and go with the flow like me. By getting wasted every weekend, doing only what God knows. I'm surprised this is even coming from a pastor's son," Jason replied. "Do you want to be judging me? Forget that thing. See, I'm a pastor's child. I know everything my dad preaches every Sunday, and I still find time to enjoy life. You are too young to be wasting your time doing only church things. Forget it, bro. Even God understands. Guys got to be guys. So what do you say? Are you finally going to stop being a lame church boy and start living life?" Marcus queried Jason. "I don't know, guy. I will think about it and let you know," Jason replied. Marcus laughed. "Grow up, guy. What is there to think about again? Man up." "Well, I guess one weekend wouldn't really hurt, just as long as you don't tell my parents or the church leaders. Have got a reputation to uphold, Jason said, finally bowing to the pressures from Marcus. I will find a way to leave the house this Friday night. I will just stay at your place for like an hour and then sneak back home. I will do this just to prove to you that I am a man and I am not a baby anymore, Jason told Caleb. Yo man, that's my man. You've been officially unleashed, bro. That is what I'm talking about, Marcus said, patting Jason on his back. That Friday morning before leaving for school, for some strange reasons, Jason's parents decided to have a talk with their son. Jason's dad put his arm around Jason and said, listen to me, son. Being a good person with integrity is nothing to be embarrassed about. In fact, it's one of the highest callings. His mom answered, your father is right. I understand the pressure of wanting to do bad things like the other kids out there, but you don't have to. In fact, you must not. That is not the measure of a man. Jason stuttered for a while. But don't you think by not doing those things, I'm not yet living life? Since almost all my age mates are doing it. Jason, look at me, his father answered. The choices you make when no one is watching, that's what defines your true character. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. His mom answered, exactly. Right is right and wrong is wrong. No matter how many misguided kids try to convince you otherwise. Is that cheating? You are a brilliant young man with limitless potential. Don't let anyone jeopardize the glorious future you have been working towards. His mom hugged him and said, just continue being the amazing person we raised you to be. If any of your friends can't accept you for who you are, then they are not worth keeping as friends. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. I won't compromise my values and goals for anyone, I promise you, Jason assured his parents. All through that day at school, Jason had a hard time paying attention in class. Instead of listening to his teachers, his mind kept thinking about the party he was to attend that night. Jason imagined the party would be a wild night with drinking, pretty girls and lots of fun. Part of Jason felt bad about going because his parents and church taught him that parties like this were wrong, especially with the admonition that his parents gave him this morning. He felt reluctant to go, but Marcus made the party sound amazing and like a chance for Jason to finally be a real grown-up instead of being a mommy's boy or a church boy. The pressure from Marcus and Jason's own teenage curiosity made him start convincing himself that the party would be okay. It's just one night of having fun, that's all, Jason thought during the class. It doesn't mean I'll be a bad kid forever. I'll just get this party craziness out of my system, then go back to normal. Jason told himself that going to just this one party wouldn't mess up his bright future. He had seen Marcus and his friends ditch class and not do their work sometimes, but they hadn't dropped out yet. They are still doing fine in the class. Jason thought he was responsible enough to party for a night and then focus after. My parents won't ever need to know, and it's not like I'll do drugs or anything too dangerous. Just a couple of drinks to be cool for once, he told himself. By the end of class that day, Jason had stopped thinking about whether the party was a bad choice. The chance to finally experience teenage fun and freedom seemed much better than another boring night at church service. Jason ignored his usual good conscience because going to the party felt too exciting. Finally, the most anticipated night came. Immediately after dinner, Jason told his parents he was too tired and that he needed a good and long rest. His mom became worried and started touching his forehead with her palm in order to feel his temperature. I am fine, Mom. I'm just feeling tired and kind of dizzy. I just need as much rest as I can get before tomorrow morning, Jason told his mom. It's fine, my baby. Go and sleep in your room. We won't come to disturb you all through the night. Please rest well, his mom replied. Thanks, mom. See you tomorrow morning. Good night, dad. Jason said and moved to his room. Jason's mom turned to his dad. Darling, do you think we should take him to the hospital for checkup? Her husband replied, well, let's see what tomorrow looks like. Then we will decide. Let him just rest tonight as he has requested. As soon as Jason entered into his room, he waited for like an hour before he finally sneaked out to attend the unsupervised high school party at Marcus' house. Giving in to pressure from Marcus, Jason temporarily threw away his principles and indulged in alcohol and other risky behaviors. Like an hour into the party, Marcus told Jason that there is someone he wanted him to meet. Jason was skeptical at first, but he later agreed to meet the person. It was Jane, Jason's classmate, that he had been crushing on for some time. At first, Jason was speechless as he couldn't believe his eyes. Jane proved to be more matured as she started the conversation and helped Jason to feel more comfortable. Marcus disappeared immediately he had introduced the two of them together, and they started talking. Jason and Jane got along well and was inseparable all through the party. The party went as planned, only that Jason ended up spending 2 more hours than what he had planned, but there was no cause for alarm since he had already told his parents not to come check on him till the following morning. He managed to get back before they could notice anything was off. He went out through the back door and also came in through the back door. After the party, everything resumed back to normal, but Jason's affection towards Jane kept growing every minute. It's like he can't keep his mind off her. He kept thinking if he could have manned up enough and do something with her at the party. Soon, his grades started plummeting. Jason's teachers noticed a shift in his attitude and plummeting grades. They tried to call his attention to it, but as their advice was coming in through the right ear, it was flying out through the left ear. Jason paid no attention to all they had to say to him. One day during break time, Jane's friends started sharing their immoral experiences with their boyfriends. They waited for Jane to share hers, but she did not have anything to say since she was still a virgin. The other girls laughed at her and called her names like Virgin Mary, small girl, daddy's girl. They told her she was still a small girl and that she had no business rolling with them as they are the big girls. She was embarrassed and vowed to do whatever it takes to be a big girl like the other girls. The following month, Marcus came up with another house party. Initially, Jason didn't want to go, but the moment he heard that Jane would be there, he vowed to do anything to be there. Eventually, both Jason and Jane had a carnal knowledge of each other at the party. Immediately after the action, Jason hated Jane. He never wanted to see or have anything to do with Jane. Jane, on the other hand, was so confused and wondered what she had done wrong. At school, Jason did all he could to avoid Jane and Marcus. For a while, Jane was bothered, but later she shrugged her shoulder and moved on. At least, she is now a big girl according to the standard of her friends. She can boldly open her mouth and talk when others are talking, and that is all that matters as far as she is concerned. Weighed down by the new person he has become, Jason started being moody and withdrawn. Days went by and Jason's drastic change in behavior did not go unnoticed by the attentive adult in his life. The once diligent, cheerful boy had become moody, secretive, and disengaged from his usual interests like church and academics. At church, Jason's youth ministers also observed him becoming sullen and withdrawn during services and teenagers' meetings he once enthusiastically attended. They saw his entire demeanor shifting. His appearance was disheveled. He had a new rebellious attitude, and he started avoiding church activities altogether. Deeply concerned, Jason's parents shared their worries with the youth pastors, They all recognized the signs of negative influences and knew they needed to intervene before Jason strayed too far. Later that day at home, his parents sat him down for an earnest heart-to-heart conversation. His mother placed a tender hand on Jason's shoulder and said, "Honey, you know you can be open with us. We are not here to judge, but we can sense something is really weighing you down lately." Jason felt a lump rise in his throat, overcome with guilt about recently shaking his principles behind his parents' back. He broke down into heartfelt sobs and said, I am so sorry. I have been making some bad choices." His parents embraced him, allowing Jason to finally unburden himself. Between anguished breaths, he confessed to the peer pressures weighing on him to drink, party and act out recklessly just to fit in. He told them how he had sneaked out of the house twice on Friday night to attend party at Marcus' house. This revelation really shocked his parents. His mother was especially hard on herself. She felt she has failed in her responsibility as a mother, and that was why she couldn't sense earlier that his son was doing all that under her very nose. She began to cry uncontrollably. Jason too was on his knees and in uncontrollable tears. His dad, on the other hand, was really disappointed in his son. If anyone has told him his quiet and responsible son could ever do that, he would have argued with all he has. He was mute for what felt like eternity. Eventually, he found his voice and spoke up. "Jason, why? I made sure you lacked nothing. Your mother and I did our best to be there for you, to teach you and to guide you. What else do you want us to do for you as parents?" Tears rolled down his eyes as he spoke. "We gave you everything. Everything, Jason. And this is what you want to use to repay us. Where did we get it wrong? What is our offense, Lord Jesus?" Jason held onto his father's legs and kept on crying and saying, "I'm sorry, Daddy. Please forgive me." Jason expressed his confused thought process of believing he could temporarily indulge, then rededicate himself after getting it out of the system. "I was a fool to think that I could just do it once and get it out of my heart once and for all." After a while, Jason's father got himself together, wiped his tears and raised his son up. He hugged him tight and told him he has forgiven him. He consoled his wife too. He then said, "Boy, your mom and I aren't exactly upset with you. We are just concerned about seeing you lose sight of your own noble character and start traveling down a path that could jeopardize your incredible potential." Jason's mother stroked his hair and said, "You are such a brilliant and caring young man. We don't ever want you sacrificing your values and integrity, no matter how overwhelming external influences might feel." Jason felt foolish for ever believing the emptiness of a wild party scene could outweigh the fulfillment of his dreams and ethical upbringing. In this tender moment with his parents, he rediscovered his steadfast moral compass. "I know I have a long road ahead to regain your trust," Jason spoke with renewed clarity, "but your love and guidance is showing me the person I truly want to be." As all this was going on, Jason mentioned nothing to his parents about his affair with Jane. That same morning at Jane's house, as they were at the dining table, Jane started feeling nauseated and eventually she stepped out to vomit. Later, she complained of feeling dizzy and with a slight headache. Her mom decided to take her to the hospital. At the hospital, tests were carried out on her and it was discovered that she was pregnant. Wait, what? Pregnant? When? How? I mean, what happened? Yeah, this girl has killed me, her mother screamed. Jane stood there confused as well. "Jane, how did this happen? How do you want me to face your father? This girl has finished me." "Oda, it's okay. But who is the father of that thing in you?" "Who? Jane, speak now. or I will use my hand to bring that thing out of your tummy myself. Right now, open your mouth and talk now. Who is the father of that thing inside you? Jane still stood there confused. But it was just once. How could this be? How did the other girls manage to do it severally without getting pregnant? She thought to herself. Jane, her mother shouted again, interrupting her thought process. Jane, are you deaf? Who is the father? Jane summoned courage to speak and she mentioned Jason's name. Back at Jason's house, Jason's father was watching news on the TV when he heard a knock on his door. He called Jason to go and open the door. When Jason opened the door, he was surprised to see Jane and her mother at the doorstep. What? What are you doing here? How did you even get here? As he was talking, Jane's mother locked his shirt and started shouting, so it is you. It is you that the devil wants to use to spoil my daughter's destiny. Jason's father heard the shout and rushed to the door. What's going on here? He asked. It is good you are here. Is it not this your devil's son that impregnated my daughter? Jesus! Jason's father shouted. He turned to Jason and asked, is this true? Jason was confused for a moment. Then he managed to speak up. Daddy, it was only once. How can she be pregnant just like that? He burst into tears. Daddy, I swear it was just once, Daddy. His father bowed his head in shame and disappointment. He then turned to Jane's mother. Madam, come inside and let's discuss this in a civil way. They entered and discussed the matter. Marcus's name was on both Jason and Jane's lips. Eventually, Jason's father and mother decided to involve the church elders so that they can talk to Marcus' parents. Jason's father accepted to take responsibility for the unborn child. Jane's mother was understandably upset at first, but eventually came around and provided Jane with the emotional support she needed as a young mother. With her family's help, Jane took a year off school to give birth and care for her unborn child. Once the baby was a year older, Jane was able to return to her studies with renewed determination. She worked incredibly hard and graduated in flying colors. She later gained acceptance into her chosen university program. As for Jason, he buckled down as well after the wake-up call of impending fatherhood. He kept his dream of becoming an architect alive by excelling in his courses and exams. Jason earned his way into a top architecture program at his preferred college. With their family's love and guidance, as well as their own resilience, Jason and Jane turned what could have been a permanent detour into just a bend in their life's road. After the meeting with Jane's mother, Jason's parents decided to talk to the church elders. Reverends, I'm afraid Marcus is heading down a very dangerous path, Jason's father explained. His parents spend more time at the church than actually parenting their own son. Someone needs to intervene before it's too late. The elders agreed this was a serious issue. They called an emergency meeting with Marcus's parents. At first, his parents were defensive. Our work for the church is important. We are helping to guide this congregation, protested Marcus's father. But the elders remained firm. Our true ministry also means providing guidance at home. If you cannot make your family the top priority, you are neglecting your sacred duty as parents. Reverend Samuel and Grace, Marcus's parents, realized that the elders were right. Their drive to serve the church had blinded them to their failings as parents. With deep shame, they agreed to take a sabbatical from their ministerial duties to focus entirely on their son. Over the next few months, Marcus's parents worked tirelessly to make amends and re-establish their bond with him. It was incredibly difficult to pull Marcus away from his wayward influences, but their constant love, attention, and counseling slowly got through to him. Marcus began to remember why he had once looked up to his parents so much. With their support, he turned his life around, staying away from gang and friends who led him astray. He got his academic life back on track with an eye towards going to the university. While the church work remained important, Marcus's parents vowed to always put their son first, never repeating the mistake that has once led him astray. Their ministry would be rooted first and foremost in providing an ever-present loving home.